I have a voicemail saved on my phone that I've never been able to explain. It's 42 seconds long. It's my own voice, and it describes in detail something that hadn't happened yet when the message was left. My name is Lauren. I'm 32. I work in healthcare administration in Nashville, and I am not someone who believes in things she can't explain. I'm methodical. I like data. I like clear answers. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that what I'm about to describe isn't something I arrived at easily or quickly. I spent a long time trying to find a rational explanation for it. I still haven't found one. This happened about 14 months ago, in the middle of what had already been a difficult year. I'd been dealing with a health issue, nothing life-threatening, but serious enough that it was taking up a lot of mental space. I was stressed. I wasn't sleeping well. I mention this because people always ask if maybe I was confused, or dreaming, or misremembering. I wasn't. I've gone over it too many times to be confused about what happened. On a Wednesday evening in October, I got a voicemail. I didn't recognize the number. It had a 615 area code, which is Nashville, but the number itself didn't come up in any search. I almost didn't listen to it. I almost deleted it. I get spam calls constantly, and I'd gotten into the habit of deleting anything I didn't recognize without listening. But something made me listen. I don't know what. Just a feeling, which I know sounds vague. I pressed play and I heard my own voice. It was definitely my voice. I know my own voice. It had my cadence, my accent, the way I trail off at the end of sentences when I'm tired. But I had not made that call. I had not left that voicemail. My phone showed no outgoing call to that number at any point in its history. The message said this, and I've listened to it so many times I have it memorized.
Hey, it's me. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry about what's going to happen with the apartment. I know it's going to feel like everything is falling apart at once, but you get through it. You do. Just don't sign anything until you've talked to someone. And call Mom back. She's more worried than she's letting on. I love you.
At the time I listened to it, none of that meant anything to me. I wasn't having issues with my apartment. My lease was fine. I wasn't expecting any kind of disruption. I thought it was a wrong number, someone calling someone else who sounded like me. Strange, but explainable. 3 weeks later, my landlord informed me that the building had been sold and my unit was being converted. I had 60 days to leave. I had never been given any indication this was coming. My lease still had 7 months on it. My lawyer told me the situation was complicated and advised me not to sign anything until we'd spoken further. Don't sign anything until you've talked to someone. That's what the voicemail said. 3 weeks before any of this happened. I called my mother that same evening. She told me she'd been worried about me for weeks but didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to add to my stress. Those were almost her exact words. More worried than she was letting on. I tried to trace the number. My phone carrier told me the number I'd received the voicemail from did not exist in their system and had never been assigned. Not disconnected, never assigned. The number, as far as any record shows, does not exist, has never existed. I still have the voicemail. I've had it analyzed by 2 different people. One, a former telecom employee. One, just someone who works in audio. Both confirmed it's my voice. Neither could explain the number. The timestamp on the voicemail says it was left at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday in October. At 11:47 p.m. on that Wednesday, I was asleep. I checked my phone records. No calls were made from my phone between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. My phone was in my bedroom. I was in my bedroom. The call was made from a number that has never existed, and the voice is mine. I got through the apartment situation. My lawyer handled it. I found a new place, which I actually like better than the old one. My mom and I talk more now than we used to. In that sense, whoever left that voicemail, whatever left that voicemail, wasn't wrong. Things did fall apart, and I did get through it. But I still listen to the voicemail sometimes. Not often, just when I need to remind myself that there are things in this world that don't have clean explanations, that some things happen and there's no framework that fits them. The voicemail is 42 seconds long. My voice, my cadence, a number that doesn't exist, a message about something that hadn't happened yet. I don't know who sent it. I don't know how it was sent. I don't know how they knew. I've stopped expecting to find out. Three years in a row, on the same night, the same man knocked on my door. He was always wearing the same clothes. He always asked for the same person, and that person, as far as I have ever been able to determine, does not exist. I live on a property outside a small town in eastern Kentucky. About 12 acres, a farmhouse, a barn I use for storage. My nearest neighbor is just under a mile away. I've lived here for 9 years. Before that, the property was owned by the same family for 3 generations. I know the history of this place reasonably well. I've looked into it because I like knowing where I am. I live alone. I work from home most days. I do accounting consulting, most of it remote. My schedule is predictable. I go to bed early. I wake up early. I am by any measure an unremarkable person living a quiet life in a quiet place. I mention all of this because what happened was so far outside the texture of my normal life that I still don't know how to fit it into any story about who I am. The first time was on a Thursday in November, about 6 years ago. It was around 9 in the evening. I was reading. Someone knocked on my front door. Out here, that's unusual enough that I noticed. People don't just turn up at rural properties at 9 at night. I looked through the window beside the door before I opened it. There was a man on my porch, average height, average build, maybe mid-40s. He was wearing a brown canvas jacket and dark work pants. He wasn't threatening in his posture, just standing there, hands at his sides, looking at the door. I opened it. He said,
Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for a man named Elias Cole. I was told he lived at this address.
I told him I'd been here 9 years and I'd never heard that name. He nodded like that was expected, thanked me, and walked back down the drive. I watched him go. He turned left on the road. I don't know where he went after that. There's nothing to the left for almost 2 miles. I looked up Elias Cole when I got back inside. Nothing in the county records. Nothing in the property history of this address. No obituary, no voter registration, no trace of anyone by that name ever associated with this land. I looked for about an hour and came up empty. I filed it away as strange and moved on. The following November, exactly 1 year later, give or take a day, someone knocked on my door at 9 in the evening. I almost didn't register the coincidence at first. I opened the door. It was the same man, same jacket, same pants. He looked exactly as he had the year before, not older, not different in any way I could see. He said,
Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for a man named Elias Cole. I was told he lived at this address.
I told him we'd had this exact conversation a year ago. He looked at me blankly, not as if he was pretending not to remember, more like the information genuinely didn't compute. He said,
I don't think we've met before, sir.
Then he thanked me and walked back down the drive, left again, same direction. The 3rd November I was ready. I'd set up a camera facing the front door 6 weeks earlier, a decent one, motion activated. I told myself I was being paranoid. I set it up anyway. On the Thursday evening I expected him. I sat in my chair and I waited. At 8:57, the motion light on the porch clicked on. He knocked. I opened the door. He said,
Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for a man named Elias Cole.
I said, I know. You've come here 3 years in a row. What do you actually want? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said,
He owes me something. I've been trying to collect for a long time.
Then he walked away. I watched him until the dark took him. He never looked back. I reviewed the camera footage that night. The motion light had activated at 8:57, exactly as I'd noticed. The footage showed my porch clearly. The motion light was on. The porch was empty. There was no one there, and yet I had opened the door and had a conversation with a man I could see standing in front of me. He has not come back since. That was 3 years ago. Every November I check the camera. Every November the porch stays empty. I've spent a long time researching the name Elias Cole in connection with this property, this county, this part of Kentucky. I found nothing, no record, no grave, no document. Whoever Elias Cole was, whatever he owed, whatever debt a man has been trying to collect for what feels like a very long time, I hope it gets settled. I'd like to stop waiting for November. The apartment above mine has been vacant for 2 years. The building manager confirmed it. The unit is listed as unoccupied in the city records, and yet every night, at almost exactly the same time, I hear someone walking around up there. I moved into my apartment on the north side of Chicago about 2.5 years ago. 3rd floor of a 6-floor building, pre-war construction. Good bones, but the kind of place where you hear everything. Pipes, neighbors, the elevator. I was used to building noise within the first week. I categorized all of it and stopped noticing most of it. This is relevant because what I started noticing several months in was not categorizable. The unit directly above me is 4B. I live in 3B. When I moved in, 4B was occupied by a quiet couple I'd see occasionally in the elevator. They moved out about 8 months after I arrived. I know they moved out because I heard the moving truck, saw them leave, exchanged brief goodbyes in the lobby. After that, 4B was quiet for a few weeks. Then one night, I want to say about 6 weeks after they'd left, I heard footsteps. Directly above me, slow, deliberate, someone walking from what I estimated was the bedroom area toward the kitchen. Back again. I checked the time because I'm like that. It was 11:22 p.m. I assumed a new tenant had moved in, and I just hadn't seen them yet. I thought nothing more of it. But the footsteps came back the next night, and the night after, and every night for the next 2 weeks, always between 11 and midnight, always that same slow walk, bedroom to kitchen, sometimes back, Sometimes back, I mentioned the new neighbor to my building manager, a woman named Carol, who'd managed the building for 11 years. She looked at me strangely and said 4B was vacant, had been since the previous tenants left. She showed me the ledger. No rent coming in from 4B, no lease active. The unit was listed as available. Carol came up with me to check the unit. She unlocked the door with her master key. The apartment was empty. Clean, unfurnished, smelling faintly of the paint they'd put on the walls between tenants. No one there. No sign that anyone had been there. No marks on the floor, nothing disturbed. The footsteps continued. Every night, I started keeping a log, date, time, duration, direction of movement. Over 3 months, I filled 6 pages of a notebook. The pattern was almost mechanical, 11:15 to 11:45, with rare exceptions. Always the same path, always the same pace. Slow, unhurried, like someone moving through a space they knew very well. I had the building structural engineer look at it. He said old buildings carry sound in unexpected ways, that I might be hearing something from a unit 2 floors up or from the building's mechanical systems. He came at night and listened. He heard the footsteps. He couldn't explain them. He said he'd never encountered anything like it, and left a report that used the phrase acoustically anomalous 3 times without offering any further explanation. One night, this was about 14 months into it, the footsteps stopped mid-path. Just stopped. I was lying in bed listening, as I'd started doing every night, and they simply ceased. Mid-step. And then, for the first time in over a year of this, something happened that hadn't happened before. 3 knocks, directly above my head. Slow, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly where I was lying. It hasn't happened again. The knocking, I mean. The footsteps continued for another 3 months after that, then stopped entirely. It's been quiet above me for about 6 months now. I don't know if that's better or worse. The silence feels like something waiting. I still live in 3B. I've thought about moving. I probably should, but I've also started to think about whoever, whatever, was up there. Moving through that empty apartment every night for over a year. Always the same path, never varying, never resting. Whatever it was doing up there, it was doing it with tremendous patience, and I find I want to understand that before I go. What you do when you have nowhere to be, and all the time in the world, and a path you've walked so many times, the floor remembers your weight. What keeps you moving in the dark when there's no one left to see you do it? It's quiet up there tonight. I'm listening anyway.